So this channel, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to, well, for those who don't know, I'm Death, or that's currently what I call myself. It's a nickname that has a long history, and maybe one day I'll post a video about it. But in the meantime, it's what I'm going by. There are a number of apps that I've used that as a screen name or a username, and a number of people have come to know me by. And also, in part, I like my anonymity, so that's what I'm going to go by. Hopefully, I can use this. Also, I don't have like a backdrop. This is very, very informal currently. So I am sitting in my room with the lights off while standing and speaking. I can pretty much see because of the light coming from the phone for recording YouTube. It's not a lot of light, but it's enough for my eyes to adapt in regards to like human beings and our night vision and so on and so forth. But I digress, which I do a lot. But anyway, I wanted to create this channel as a means to recreate or emulate a kind of space or place for conversation, and just kind of like commentary on my own thoughts, things like that. I've had a number of people throughout my time here in the Middle East tell me that I should do a blog or a vlog, or I should, write articles and things like that. And I've always had, and I've had a number of people, both online and offline, tell me these things. And I've always kind of had this opinion about myself, like, yeah, like I love talking about these things. They're interesting, but like who's going to want to listen, right? To me specifically, my perception of my life is up until literally this very moment, I've led a fairly boring life. To me, that's a lot of other people characterize it differently, but my opinion is like I just do kind of what I want, and anything that I can do and have done, anybody else can do or has done immeasurably better. But anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to recreate was, there's an app, it's called Wakey. I was on there as Death. And there was a club within this app. Excuse me. And the club, it was full of people from all over the world, varying backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, career paths. Like and I made a number of good friends on there, like people who are economists, doctors, high up in the Saudi family, but not like super high, but like enough for them to have a Wikipedia page. And in this club, in this place, we had conversations about any number of things. And the age range of this club varied, but it was always nuanced, considerate, respectable discussion and debate that had decorum. So currently, I'm really limited at what I can do in regards to helping to both facilitate and create that, and try and somehow make that the range of discourse for people again, because from my perspective and in my opinion, it seems like people are becoming far more polarized in this day and age than previously. And there can be any number of reasons for that. But one of the things that I and others loved about this club is that you could, no topic was really taboo, and which was good. Kind of became problematic at times, but we had really good moderators. But all in all, we could have a civil discussion. We could discuss things. We could comment on them, and we could disagree while still being friends and just members of a group together, still unified around some base ideal or base framework of interaction, right? Like everybody liked the fact that we had decorum, we had rules. They weren't too strict, but they weren't too broad. Everybody liked the fact that we could and enjoyed it. And I would venture to say that most people like and enjoy this. Most people want to live in a group. Harmoniously is not necessarily the right word, but respectably. Like, people want to live in such a way that they can disagree and still go have a meal together and disagree while they're having this meal, which I think is becoming far less likely, or rather the portions that are so polarized, that are so separate, are overrepresented because they're the loudest voices that we see on TV and social media, so on and so forth. So this is just kind of like an introductory video. I know it's kind of long. I know it's sort of odd, but currently that's what I'm gonna do. Hopefully I'm gonna take my time with it. Sometimes I'm not as good with consistency as I'd like to be or should be. I'm working to change that, and this is one of the kind of like projects that I'm using to do that with, like give myself something, to do and engage with, every now and again. So like every other week or maybe once a week, I might put out a video. And also where I'm at in the Middle East and kind of like the position I'm in and stuff like that, I don't necessarily have a ton of money and or time to just like to be burning on like a great deal of production materials. So it's gonna be me and currently my seriously jacked up phone right now, producing these videos. And initially they're going to be kind of very off the cuff, no script, just a topic or a subject, and then my thoughts and comments on it. But eventually I want to get into kind of what it was like in this club, where I talk to people about a number of different topics and issues. And there's so many people here where I currently live. One of the things that I've realized in my travels is the perception is always quite different than the reality. And this goes very seriously in both directions. And like I said, I like my anonymity. But for those who don't know, I used to be in the military. Not very long, just 2 years, but I used to be in the military. And from discussing things with people where I'm from about what occurs in the military and what happens, it was like night and day. And you kind of, in your training and stuff like that, you sort of learn that. You're like, all right, like there's no way that they're really going to understand unless they live the life. And even talking to people online, there was this kind of disassociation is not the right word. But there was this misconception. Wow. There's this misconception about that, about what goes on and what goes on in the minds of people who were in the military. So, I kind of like got sort of like an international feel for it. And then I started traveling around and speaking to people locally here. And to hear the things that they think, like even about their own like military or even about their own police force, like it's crazy. And it's kind of the same thing though. It's because people are removed from that world. They don't have information, and they think the information that they have is accurate. They think it's like no. One of the things that I've said to a number of my friends is like nobody walks around telling themselves that they're constantly wrong about a thing. Like, I don't do it, you don't do it, nobody does it. Which is like, I guess that's kind of how we stay sane. Like that's how some philosopher somewhere ended up questioning reality. Is like, well, what if this is all wrong? Which is a good question to ask. Like, what if this is all wrong? But also, what if it's not? In regards to the perspectives that are given by other people. So I want to kind of create again that space for actual communication where I go and I talk to people about different things, any number of topics. I have a number of friends here who are doctors, police, NGO workers, military, former military. They're to one side of a conversation, to the other side, coming all from totally different socioeconomic classes and things like that. And I think that's something that's kind of like missing is the sort of like cross level interaction, uh, at least in regards to conversation. Like people are people. That's another thing that I've noticed. Wow, this is going kind of long. This is another thing that I've noticed, and I also try and keep these videos short, at least initially. But another thing that I've noticed is like, it doesn't kind of really matter where you're at. Like, whether it's a war zone, a developing nation, a third world country, a place on the brink, a first world country, like, at the end of the day, people are still people. Like you have to get up, you have to get food for yourself, get food for your family. You have to, have fun. You have to hang out. You have to entertain yourself when you're bored. You have to expand your mind. And I think that there is a way to create a space where people from varying backgrounds, nations, socioeconomic classes can come together and have a reasonable, rational, nuanced discussion and conversation about a number of different things. So this is my first video. I am going to see how it fares, see how people like it, see how people don't like it. Go from there. I think the first topic that I'm going to talk about, because I just watched a video about it, and every time I hear it, it really frustrates me. And I think a lot of other people may or may not see it this way, but who knows? But it's this idea that words are violence. I don't ever, I don't understand how people can come to the conclusion that words themselves are violence, right? Like if I say a word, it's inflicting some kind of physical force or pain or damage to you. Violence has an objective definition. If you inflict violence against someone, you can it can cause damage to them. A person would have to defend themselves from violence. Now you can defend yourself from a bad idea. You can call an idea bad. You can call it stupid. You can call any words that a person says. You can call them great, amazing, retarded, stupid. But at the end of the day, they're not violence, because violence is a force that is exerted upon you, right? Like it's external. And though words are external, but they're not forced upon you, you can ignore them. You take them in, you conceptualize them, right? Whatever idea that you conceptualize from what they're saying. And that's another thing too. Just because you perceive words as violence doesn't mean that the idea that they're trying to communicate has been properly conceptualized by you, because words kind of suck at their job. Excuse me, but aside from that, you can ignore them. You can hear it, you can say, it doesn't matter. And you can totally go about your business. And I'll try and get into further detail. Try and see if I can't, put some sources together to see if there's some things that we could sort of define in this regard. Like, how do you define violence? How do you define force? Is somebody saying something you don't want to hear violence if you don't like the way that it feels, or if you disagree with it? I can assume that most of you would assume where I stand on this issue, but we should discuss it. We should create some definitions beforehand and then discuss those definitions. But I know this is kind of long. It's 15 minutes, so I'm going to leave it here. This is more of an in-depth explanation of what I hope this to be. So you kids have fun.